Hi all.
Now you will hear a brief retelling of the movie Hooligans.
Enjoy watching.
Two groups of fans crossed paths at a metro station. London football clubs, West Ham United and Tottenham Hotspur. Squabble between leaders turns into general Homan, and then a fierce fight.
From the harsh capital of Great Britain, we are transported to the United States. Matthew Buckner students, who studied to be a journalist,
Expelled from Harvard, and in this court throughout.
His rich roommate is involved. He paid of the guy. Gave him $10,000. With this money, Matt FLIs to his chaining sister in London.
She met him at the exit of the subway.
Cleans up trash around.
Left over after a showdown between football fans.
Matt tells his sister that he was expelled because they found cocaine in his neighbor's things.
And he didn't even try to justify himself.
Because the drug addict has too influential a family. Later, Honey meets her husband Shannon Steve. Caring father and in general, an exemplary family man. And then a hurricane bursts into the house. Steve's brother. No one is happy about a bottomless youth with the habits of a Gopnik.
He came here only for this.
To borrow money.
Steve sets conditions.
That he will give £100 if Pete takes him to a football match. And Marta and Shannon.
Romantic dinner, and the guest arrived at the wrong time. He hands the money to Matt and demands so that they stay with him.
You shouldn't give them to Peter.
But only after turning the corner, Gopnik immediately begins to coward the student,
demanding to give him half and go about his business.
He is not going to take an American to football.
Matt tried to kick the extortionist, but was shamefully laid down on his shoulder blades.
It was like his first fight.
And then Pete softened, decides to take the dead guy with him anyway, so that he learns something. Before introducing him to your guys,
Pete mentors a new friend
to keep him quiet, that his father is a journalist. Americans are no longer liked here. Only cops and lying magazines.
In the company of drunk guys,
Matt discovers the delights of local slang.
The least happy about the appearance of the Yankees is the right hand of Pete Boiver.
Besides, it interferes with their plans for today. After a couple of pints and a few shots, guys with other visitors,
pubs started singing their club song. In the toilet, guard gave Matt a little piss.
He already wanted to go home, but there were stains, so that he can go to the match too.
Shouting all over the street, the crowd moves towards the stadium at the very entrance.
Violators order to hide their faces from CCTV cameras. Finally, an American will see
what is real football.
Encrypting from stadium part-time worker to team fans, Birmingham City snuck in the subs and began sending them to all possible places,
but was quickly captured and removed from the stadium. The rest of the guys are delighted with his action. Next, they are going to ambush the metro.
And Matt still asks to go home. Offended Birmingham fans saw that the smallest one separated from the group
and grabbed him in the alley, inserting a plastic card into the poor guy's mouth.
They're going to give him the so-called Chelsea smile. But Peter manages to save him with his gang.
A van drives behind them,
but he just started moving.
One of the Birminghams destroyed the windshield.
20 more people came out of the tunnel behind him, and they started
throw bricks and bottles at our guys.
Despite the numerical minority,
they take the pain, including Matt, who at first wanted to run away.
Miracles don't happen.
They get a lot of pressure,
but soon comes running to help another crowd of West Ham fans.
Guys respect the Yankees,
although they make fun of his fighting skills.
The next day, Matt wakes up with a hangover.
Already in Pete's apartment.
During breakfast, he explains to a new friend that he is the leader of the Matt group.
Young elite gang. Every European team has such groupings.
And if West Ham is a mediocre football club,
then MAP is a first-class group.
At Arsenal, for example, it's the other way around, but Tottenham sucks at both.
Their main enemies are the Milo team group.
Their frostbitten leader,
Tommy Hedger, lost his son in one of the fights.
MEP itself was founded by a certain major, and under him, the organization was especially formidable and respected. Even though they are essentially a gang, they value their reputation.
Pete finally brings Matt home, and, seeing his beaten face, Steve attacks his brother. Family squabbles turn into a general brawl,
in which the American gets it too. The guys have no choice. How to go to the pub again? VOV makes gay jokes at them,
and Pete has to put him in his place. Later, Matt packs up his things to get away from Sharon Peter. They sort things out.
The guy hasn't visited his sister for a long time
because he was angry with her. She moved to England immediately after her mother died
and left him one.
Father is a military journalist
and constantly disappears somewhere in hot spots. Peter decided to introduce the Yankees to
football is even closer and put it on the goal during the regular game.
English guys, whom he trains.
Due to ineptitude, his team lost with a score of 10-3.
God sees the couple together again, and he doesn't like it,
Why does he come to me low?
and immediately catches the eye of Tommy Hatcher.
He is interested.
What the hell are Americans doing?
And where is his girlfriend Picty now?
Tommy told the cafe patrons to shut up, and when one couple continued to giggle, he grabbed the man and started hitting his head on the table.
Bover stood up for the couple, but scumbags leave anyway, because the owner called the cops. Pete and the guys got ready to go after the team for an away match in Manchester.
But the Bover disappears somewhere.
One more bully, Dave, also didn't show up. Matt offers its services, but it turns out they don't take him, that other members of the organization.
We were waiting for Peter already at the station.
Matt didn't know that,
So I got hooked on the train anyway.
to support a friend. Dave works as a flight attendant and arrived in Manchester before the rest.
He warns the map that they are at the station.
About 40 people from the Manchester group are already waiting, so they shouldn't come here.
The gang pulls the stop valve and doesn't make it to Manchester.
Matt comes up with a plan.
Thanks to
They are passing by
past a crowd of Manchester United fans on a truck,
and attack them from behind. Mass brawl captured by cameras.
and the police arrive pretty quickly, with broken faces.
Map participants.
Nevertheless, they were very pleased with their trick, and the Yankees deserve respect and became a full member of the organization.
He even gets the club emblem tattooed on him.
The guy in the salon became embittered.
During fights and became more confident.
One day, on the threshold of Shannon's house, his father meets him and tries to understand why didn't his son call him when he was framed. Matt won't contact his dad,
Because he doesn't take a person's words seriously, whom he sees a couple of times a year.
and yet he succeeds.
Dragging my son to lunch with colleagues at the Times office.
During the FA Cup draw, West Ham hits Millwall, and members of both groups are happy about this.
Because they had no reason to fight.
For more than 10 years, Matt on the magazine's editorial team sees one of the maps and tells the Boivo about it. His father persuades Matt to return to Harvard and work together.
Efforts to restore his reputation.
But the guy refuses and doesn't even want to spend his last time with his father, half an hour before his departure. Meanwhile, Steve finds out from his wife
That her brother studied at Harvard to become a journalist. You encrypt in the evening.
he comes to the pub and tells Matt
That it was a big mistake not to warn anyone.
that he is a journalist.
Steve tries to sneak the guy outside.
But they are stopped.
Welcome back, Major. For Major.
Turns out to be his sister's husband, the same legendary founder of Matt. God and the guys come to Pete's and tells him about it, that Matt is an underground journalist,
No wonder he fell on them out of nowhere.
and made friends with the leader.
On a student's laptop, they find his personal diary and mistake it for a draft.
By the way, Stiver tells them this about his crazy past. Last game, which he visited,
Was just sweet.
he's in love with her as always.
Brought his 12-year-old son, Tommy Jr. Furious over the team's defeat and taunts from enemies.
The Major attacked Tommy's group.
During the brawl, he saw how a guy's skull was crushed.
This incident was the reason for his exit from the map, and when he met Sherman, she threatened Steve that will leave him if he returns to his old life. Unexpectedly, Pete and Bob attack the boy.
However, Pete cools down and agrees to believe it. That it was just a diary.
Not an article. But the second fighter does not calm down and cannot accept it.
That they sheltered a journalist.
Upset, he declares himself in the very lair of the enemy, celebrating the draw. Beaver? What ends up with these unexpected meetings?
People will start rumors.
He asks Tommy to help him deal with the journalist. In exchange, he tells that the Major is also in the pub, whom Tommy blames for his son's death. In the toilet, Pete asks Matt directly again. Does he work for the Times? The student seriously set him up.
And threatened the existence of the map.
The naive Beaver led Tommy's gang to the pub, and he was immediately knocked out, breaking a bottle on your head. Pete asks his brother for help after the match, but gets rejected.
I won't help you.
I promise my wife and child, and I will keep my promise. Immediately, Tommy's gang breaks into the establishment. The leader is looking for the Major. Steve tells him
That he's done with everything, and he's really sorry for Tommy Jr. But in the end, after a short brawl, gets a rosette in the throat.
God grabs his head, seeing. What did he do? Steve is bleeding, and friends as soon as possible. They take him to the hospital.
Pete can't forgive God for his stupidity.
Betrayal and drives him away.
Shannon arrives at the hospital with a stroller and pounces.
In the north, Steve is in serious condition.
But he will live.
He squeezes his wife's hand and asks her for forgiveness. Pete asks his fighter,
Arrange a meeting with Tom in a quiet place to sort everything out once and for all. Shannon and her child are going to fly to America because it's not safe for them to stay at home. Drink the same thing. They are advised to do this.
God, looking like a beaten dog, sings alone
And drowns sorrow in alcohol. Early in the morning, fighters mentally prepare for the most important battle.
Matt doesn't know. Should he go to the slaughter with the others? How important is his reputation?
And will it be important in America? Where Matt finally went home.
Shannon called a taxi
But she can't call Matt. He is already running after his group.
and takes place among other fighters.
At the agreed place,
Tommy's gang is already waiting for them.
angry men clashed in a mass brawl.
Teeth fly, bones break.
Someone brought a knife with them. Someone has brass knuckles.
Tommy beats Pete with a baton, breaks his knee, and was ready to finish him off.
But he is saved by God, who came to the rescue.
Shannon came to the scene of the showdown for Matt.
Tommy is trying to get to her. But Pete draws attention to himself and says that Tommy himself is to blame for his son's death. He pounces on the guy and slams his face into the ground. Scumbag delays.
But it's too late.
He beat Pete to death. Matt returned to America with Shen, and there he is first.
Business finds his former neighbor Major and reminds him
That the drugs were his,
and he promised Matt to help him in the future. He confirms everything.
and it was in vain that the conversation was recorded on a voice recorder, and you definitely won't be able to take the device away from him.
Walking down an empty street,
Matt hums a song.
which he just recently
Sang with my London friends in a pub.